rulebook doesn't say you have to tackle this journey of life alone. These are the times I make those connections with others, so we can all take a look back while we all move forward. This is the Dependent Independent Podcast.
MiniSode.
Hey there, subscribers. Thank you for downloading and listening to MiniSode 52 and a half of the Dependent Independent Podcast. I'm your host, Nick G. This is a podcast about making connections, looking back while moving forward. In these minisodes, I get my subscribers caught up on what they missed in our previous episode, what I've been up to since that last episode posted, and what you can anticipate in future episodes. Now, it's usually part of the show where I kind of plug my Twitter, my email, but I just want to let you know, if you don't already know, we just launched the dependentindependent.com podcast website. I guess when I first started this podcast, I kind of cast a wide net and was on all these social media sites, Facebook. We had our Facebook page, which I usually plug around this time, Twitter, everything like that. But now we have a full-blown hub, a very clean website that, with the help of Allie McAdam from Passion and Business Podcast, she helped me design the website. And it's really addicting. You know, you get in there with WordPress and you come up with all these interesting ways of displaying what you want to display, putting up buttons, colors, pictures, all that stuff. But I'll put the link in our show notes. The dependentindependent.com is now your hub of all things TDI. You can see you can read my blog, which I'm going to start blogging, which is a follow-up to these episodes, which I have a few up there already. You can stream the show live from there. We're also going to have a page where we can post the Are You Listening podcast that we promote in our full episodes. And you can also watch our YouTube videos. Now, I'm recording this for our YouTube viewers, those of you who are visual, and it's pretty cool. I've got a lot of great feedback on it. I hope you enjoy it, and we will put, like I said before, the link in our show notes. But you can still download this podcast on any podcast app on iOS or Android. I'll put the links, and also on the main page of our website actually has hyperlinks at the bottom where you can check Google Play, Overcast, iTunes, and you can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and on Instagram at dependent_Nick, and on Twitter at dependent_Nick. It's crazy. You know, you start this and you want to figure out a way to get the word out, and it gets a bit overwhelming because you read this book, that book, watch this YouTube video, that YouTube video. You ask podcast peers, and they tell you how to get your show out. Well, I'm dialing it back, man. I'm bringing it all into one place. You can also connect with me. I'm not going to give you my email address because I dare everyone every week to email me, and they never do. So you can actually go on the Contact Me page, and you can send me a little note. It'll go directly to my email, and I'll have your email to communicate whenever you want to, which is kind of cool. So I am racing against the clock. It's still usually as late on a Monday as what I usually do when I record this show. These minisodes post on Mondays at midnight, as well as all of our full shows where we actually interview co-hosts, and we have co-hosts on the show to cover various topics. Last week, or actually it's been a while since I recorded my last full episode, even though it posted last Monday. The episode 52 with the Margos, Margot P and Margot D from Book versus Movie, that was awesome in the extent of like this, right? I went in there as an ignorant man, assuming too much about feminism. And if you really want to hear me humbled and take enormous pregnant pauses in the process of learning something that I didn't know, listen to that show. I'm sure if you're a subscriber, you've already listened to that show, and that's why you're tuning into this show. Subscribe to the show. If this is your first time listening to the show on this minisode, subscribe on iTunes or whatever your podcast app is. So immediately when we post this show or any of our shows at midnight on Mondays, it'll hit your podcast feed, and you can listen to it during your drive or anytime you listen to podcasts on Tuesdays throughout the week. So that was last episode. I kind of rifled through that, but the greatest thing and one of the most beneficial things about doing this is I get to connect with other podcasters that have just as much passion as I do in doing this, and it was great to live through their experience. Both Margot P and Margot D were unable to come to the 50th anniversary at Tomfoolery Brewing Company, and if you haven't listened to that show was great. It's great. It's fabulous. It's great. I don't know. Does anybody ever talk about their podcast and say it's garbage? I mean, it's great. So listen to it and watch me on YouTube. We're also at the link to the YouTube channel to listen to this show or listen and view this show and all of our minisodes, which is usually just me, because recording our co-hosts and myself on our full episodes are kind of hard because I just have one camera and I'm a control freak and I just want one camera ready to go. Also, these are minisodes because I need to finish this show in less than 30 minutes because I just learned, and I've learned the hard way during our 50th, that when these cameras hit 30 minutes, they conk out. So we're racing against the clock. So what's been happening since my last, that always sounds like a confession. So this past weekend, I think I was a really shitty dad. I was an uptight dad. My kids had sleepovers. My son had a birthday party at the local bowling alley and had his friends over, and we had their friends sleep over. And I don't know what it was, but both my wife and I were uptight or revved up or tired or something. And, you're dealing with 2 kids in the house, but then we had 6 kids in the house. So I almost feel bad. I was kind of this, pecking at everything and nitpicking my son and the boys when they were just having fun. And I'm sorry, Nathan, if you're listening to this in the future, I'm sorry that I did that. You probably won't remember. And my daughter's been creating things, all these YouTube videos of people putting together these chemical and chemistry sets using household products, like safe things, not inert things, not crazy chemical things, but making, putty out of laundry detergent and Elmer's glue has gotten really out of hand. And as much as I want her to be creative, we had to draw the line. So that was me as a parent this week. But most important and a life-changing thing that happened, the one thing I have to say since I started this in 2015, I never really talk about what I do for a living. I connect with a lot of entrepreneurs on this medium and a lot of podcasters that are motivational and excited and professional and great at what they do. But the one thing I spend 50 hours a week doing, I don't usually talk about. It's not really, this is something I get away from that, but I think I wanted to talk about that in this episode, and I bounced a few ways on how to do it because I don't really like talking about my job or where I work, but I don't mind talking about my profession, and I've kind of teased it in a few shows in the past, especially when I'm with Dewey, my co-host of many episodes. The thing is earlier last week, middle of last week, I quit my job. I resigned from a job I've worked at for the past 4.5 years, which I worked before I started this, and I accepted a position, a much bigger position, at a company that had a different expectation of what I can do. And I'd worked at my company a long time, and anytime I work in human resources, and anytime I work with employees that are not quite feeling it or not quite inspired or engaged, usually I have a conversation with them to understand that are you adding the most value? Like we want to do something that we add the most value in. And I had an opportunity to connect with someone, long story short, someone who knew me. His son and my son played soccer. And about 2 years ago, we would talk shop. I would talk about what I know and how I work with business leaders and how I work with top-notch management on teaching them and guiding them and showing them how best to be the best leaders they can be and lead their companies that they work for. And we would talk shop, and this guy just got to know me, the Nick that you got to know on this podcast. And it took a little bit of time, but as he found a new opportunity, he wanted to hire someone in HR who knew what they were doing. And I guess I left a good impression just by simply being me. And I went on a few interviews, and it worked out, and was given a job offer, and I accepted it, and I started at the end of the month. It's a bigger job. I definitely know I'll still have time to do this, but it's one of those things where I might have to hold back on some of my full-blown entrepreneurial things, and that's something I was wrestling with, but it's good for my family, it's good for me, it's good for my well-being. But the reason why I wanted to talk about it is anytime you want to take a new opportunity, I thought it's always easy. I haven't quit a job since 2002. Usually the jobs I've lost are because the company was sold or I was laid off due to downsizing. So in essence, you walk into a room and you say, you know what, I don't want to be part of your team anymore because I want to be part of somebody else's team. And I played it out in my head of what to do. Like I knew what I wanted to do. I knew how the conversation wanted to turn out. But the irony was it didn't sit well with me. It felt that I was letting someone down. And I ask advice from my friends and mentors. Are like, you know what, that's fine. It's smooth sailing to your last day. You work on transitioning what you're doing, and then you move on to bigger and better things. And my brain I wish it was that simple. I've been struggling with people. You tell people that you're leaving, and they come into your office and say, it's sad to see you go. They start with that, and then they say, but I'm really happy for you. And I never really I'm not really searching for those accolades. That's not something I do that. I did that for, but I didn't realize how uncomfortable it makes me. But that's usually the normal process, right? Like people do that. You say goodbye. I mean, I've been doing this for so long in my profession. I've seen a million people quit their jobs, and I've hired a million people. So I know how that works. That's the circle of life in the corporate world, or most businesses for that matter. But it was something that I didn't anticipate in walking out of that meeting when I said when my last day was going to be. And then, as I've become better in my own skin, I've learned how to build not only relationships with my listeners, but also relationships with the people around me. Because when I sit and do this every week, I share a bit of myself. And that takes a lot of courage and a lot of energy and a lot of choice, proper choices in what I like to share and how far I want to go down that rabbit hole. And in the past 2 years, as much as I've shared with all of you, I've also shared with the people I work with, people I see more than the people I see at home. And it's astonishing the relationships I built that I didn't anticipate. And it hurts that I'm leaving these people, and I see it in how they reacted to when I told them. And if any of you are listening, guys, I love you, and you're very special to me. And I'm very pleased and proud with the team that we've built and the relationships we have, both personally and professionally. And I always say this to them too, I'm not dying. And I'm curious to see how our relationships change as we don't work together and as we become more friends rather than colleagues. But that's one thing that I wanted to share. I don't know if any of you have had that experience before of quitting a job. Now, I in my type of profession, I don't like making friends at work because I have to tell people what they don't want to hear. And sometimes that puts me in a difficult predicament. And I've matured in my career to know how those relationships are built and how to establish those working personal and professional relationships. But hey, man, I like connecting. Like I like really getting to know people. And it kind of is, it's a wrestling match between what I do for a living and how friendly I get with people at work. So I used to make that choice, that rule. You've heard me talk about making rules where you just can't do it. Well, I threw that out the window the last 2 years and have grown exponentially as a person, being able to build those relationships with these people. And it's been so very special to me. And I did not think, again, quitting a job would create such angst. You know, it's you work at some place and you get really comfortable. And we strive through our lives from the time we're born, and we come out of the womb where it is comfortable, and then we come out and it's freezing, and then whether we're breastfeeding, and that creates comfort to an infant, and being dry, not with a wet diaper, and all these things we do that we sought out when we were younger, but also then our children seek out, where we want to create comfort, we want to make people feel safe. And sometimes you get in a point in your career where you're going to go through times where you feel safe and you feel comfortable. But what sucks, what really fucking sucks, is the fact that in order to grow, because I have this ambition gene in me, I have to become better at what I do. I don't know if you've noticed on this video, I even trying a new light system. I'm also going without my headphones because I know I'm recording at the right levels and I want to look good on camera, and I'm always trying to become better even at this little hobby I have that's growing out to, you know, the web on the dependentindependent.com website. It's where you can get all things TDI Podcast. Boom, there's a plug. So you try really hard to get comfortable, but the only way to grow in life is to make yourself uncomfortable. And not till I've told people that, I've taught people that, I've worked with people that as I developed professionals and developed people. But I swear I've never experienced it quite like this before. You know, I have a new job I'm going to. I know they want me to be there, but I'm so anxious to understand, you know, how's the culture there? How will they accept me once I get there? All these things that I'm going through, but all of it is a choice. I didn't have to accept that job. I didn't have to resign from my job, but I chose to do it. And I think in the long term, it's really going to keep me frosty, be able to teach me how to become different and better, and be able to do what I know I can do. Now, I tapped on this before about understanding your value. If you're ever anywhere where you feel you cannot maximize your potential and add the most value possible, add a value, you have to kind of look at yourself in the mirror and decide, do I need to change? Do I need to do something different? And I made that choice, and it's exciting and it's exhilarating. And on March 20th, I'm starting my new job. I'll probably talk about it a little bit on the show. I don't like to, but it's something new and something going on. it's something that I, again, had not anticipated, and now I'll be able to grow. I'll be able to get even bigger boy pants on, doing something different and doing something I'm good at. I don't think I take enough time to really pat myself on the back and know that I know my shit in what I do for a living. And I know that sounds pretty pompous and arrogant, but I don't give myself enough credit that I can do things that some people can't do. Humility is a good thing, but it's also a good thing to know when you can turn around, reach that arm back and pat yourself on the back for just being you. Now, that's what's happening. That's really kind of real significant at work since I last posted my podcast last Monday night at midnight, when this show always posts. By the way, also this video, I've been usually saying I'll take 2 days to do it, but I can crank this out and get this up on YouTube in a day. So you can, as you're downloading and listening to this show on your podcast player on Tuesday morning, stay tuned to our website and also our Facebook and Twitter and Instagram feeds. We'll just put a link so you can get the next MiniSode up on YouTube. So that's pretty much what's going on. I was kind of an uptight parent over the weekend, and I quit my job last week. A significant change in my career, but something I need to do in order to be the best professional, the best person, the best boss, manager, coworker I can be, because it's impossible for me to settle in what I do well. It's impossible to do it. It's a curse. It's crazy. Who knows, next week I might have a disco ball and a chandelier over my head to increase the lighting on this video. But for those listening and those watching on YouTube, I do this to hopefully bring a level of authenticity on what happens when you hit 40 and you're trying to figure yourself out and get to 200 episodes, because that's what this journey is all about. My next episode, which I just found out for Christmas, we are taking the kids to Broadway this weekend, but I was mistaken and thought we were going to go on Monday or on Saturday, but we're actually going on Sunday. I scheduled my next podcast recording with none other than Annette Bone from the Dancepreneuring Podcast, a woman I met. I probably mentioned her on my show before. She and I connected at the Mid-Atlantic Podcast Convention last September. She's a dancer. My daughter's a dancer. I'm a dancer. I dance twice a year, so I could say I'm a dancer on stage. I'm a dancing dad. And we were planning on recording the show, but Annette, you're listening. If you get this or listen to this or watch this video before you and I connect, I need to reschedule, maybe move it to Saturday or Monday, because it's very, very important that you're on episode 53 of the TDI podcast. Amazing. Usually I take forever doing this, but I'm only 20 minutes in, and I think I'm almost finished. Maybe because those plugs took so goddamn long going through all that stuff. We have links to the show notes, or links in the show notes to all the podcast feeds that you can download and listen to this show. If you're streaming the show on our website, please subscribe. You can subscribe through Libsyn.com, or you can subscribe on iTunes, which seems to be the easiest thing that everybody does. But remember, the dependentindependent.com website, where you can find everything Dependent Independent. You can find streams to our show, our YouTube videos, which this will be on as well, my blog, which I'm just starting to get into. I used to write a little bit, but I use this podcast to really express what's going on in this brain. But I think I'm going to start using that blog to get more of that out there, to kind of close the gaps or even inspire me to pick topics for future episodes. And you can contact me as well through the website. Forget the email address. I'll still put it in the show links, but you can do it anyway. I think I'm pretty much on schedule. My son's going to be home anytime. I want to thank his friend Chris and his parents, Dominique and Brian, who took Nathan to go see Stephen Curry at the Warriors-Sixers game tonight. He's a huge fan, and I thought it was a great gift that they took him. Unfortunately, Nate, your dad isn't a sports guy. You know that. I'm a nerd, a video game guy. So, I got this. So all these games here and the game system behind me, my Xbox behind me. I'm glad he had the opportunity to do that, and I can't wait to hear how much fun he has, or how much fun he had. This is Nick G, the host of the Dependent Independent podcast. You're listening to MiniSode 52.5. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for downloading. Subscribers, thank you for continuing to listen. And YouTubers, thank you for watching me. This is me finishing my MiniSode, and I'm out.